Yo, what's up, guys? It's your boy Taff from GeekAfrique, and today we're going to be looking at some of the most awesome indie games I've come across in recent times. So, I will admit, I have featured some of these in videos before, especially in my previous video when I talked about some of the hardest games I've played this year. But I just thought some of these deserved a relook, especially games like Dead Cells and Cuphead. You know, these games are really special, and what makes them that much more special is they're generally worked on by people who are super passionate. More often than not, big developers tend to start swaying away from the things that made their games special, you know, in favor of more money-making mechanics, things like loot boxes, things like paid for skins, and all sorts of other things that we can just list off as enemies of gamers in the modern generation. So every once in a while, when we're offered a title that just comes in and says, here's everything you could ever want, all your unlockables are available, all you have to do is put in the work, you tend to appreciate it, you know. And what also makes these more special is these AAA developers generally have the resources, massive swathes, huge teams of designers, coders, developers able to work on these games, whereas most of these games are made by really small teams. Some of them maybe even as few as 10 people would have constructed a game like this, which is just a phenomenal feat, especially when you see the gameplay, the design, just the overall love that's just been put into some of these games, you know. I'm also just always a fan of these artworks. As a kid of the 90s, I obviously grew up with Saturday morning cartoons, cereal, just relaxing, watching any of the old favorites like Tom and Jerry, or maybe something a bit more new school, in my case like Ed, Edd and Eddy. And so many of these just drudge up those awesome memories, just sort of bring back that nostalgic feeling of what it was like as a kid to just be wowed by this animation, and to think that now it's sort of like the ability to control these animations. It's just incredible, you know, it's amazing. These games are just really special. So I guess all I really wanted to do is sort of just gush over what I love the most about these games as well. I will have my standard caveat though. One thing, these games can be really hard, and I mean obscenely difficult at the best of times, especially games like Hollow Knight. That is pretty famous for it. Hades is quite well known for its intense difficulty. Cuphead at one point was referred to as the Dark Souls of platformers, so that probably gives some people some context as to what we're dealing with. And considering Dark Souls itself is known as being an unbelievably hard game, that should probably give you a fair bit of context. Otherwise, I just generally find every single one of these to be love letters to the 90s, you know. A game like Battletoads as well, I found had just incredible humor. It was just amazing. The visuals are just striking, eye-popping. They really did everything they could to give you that feeling that you are playing a game that feels like it should have existed when you were a child, but is in this current motion capable, because the engines obviously back then were not going to be able to produce such buttery smooth effects. So it's just made me more appreciative of where gaming has come from and where it is always heading to. I mean, I love my graphical heavy AAA titles. I was a huge fan of Red Dead Redemption. Grand Theft Auto is still one of my favorite games ever, as I've probably mentioned 1,000 times. I really thought The Last of Us Part 2 was quite an incredible step up. Ghost of Tsushima, it has to be one of the best looking games I've seen. I'm honestly still in awe at what they actually managed to achieve with even games like The Order 1886. You know, Spider-Man was just wow. But it's games like these that also just make you appreciate where it all began. You know, what was the type of game that got so many of us hooked, that got so many of us spending hours sitting in front of our little TVs, hammering away at those little NES controllers or PlayStation 1 controllers. or hammering away at our little A and B buttons on our Game Boy Colors and Advances, just trying to pick up all the gems and hoover up all the trophies and pick up all the items and maybe save the princess. You know, these games are just love letters to aspects of gaming we enjoyed in the past, and that's what makes indie games so special. And that's why I feel like they just need to always be supported. These are developers that definitely deserve our time, and they definitely deserve our money. They work harder than most, and they produce incredible original titles. So shout out to games like Battletoads, Cuphead, Streets of Rage, just basically all of these games, from like Celeste, Dead Cells, just every single one of these have all just been incredible games, amazing titles, and they really deserve to be played by everyone. It's been your boy Taff from GeekAfrique. Just another bit of an appreciation today, not as long as usual, but if you do want me to, I am willing to do a deeper dive into one of these games and really go into what makes it special on its own unique level, rather than just going across all of them. Otherwise, I really hope you have tried some of these or are willing to try them out. But if you haven't already subscribed, please do, and turn that notification bell on so you'll be notified of my next video. Otherwise, please stay with us here at GeekAfrique.